Right. There we go, Nicola. Right, I'll just do a little introduction for you.
Thank you.
Welcome. There's got so many screens here. Right, so this is our beautiful Nicola, and she's a co-author of 2 books, which is quite amazing. And you can find those again all listed in the information. And she's a certified Reiki master, which is I think where many of us started, and a teacher. She's also a shamanic practitioner, and there's many of us here, shamanic practitioners working with dragons. She's also a moonologer. I have no idea what that is, so that sounds
Moonologer.
Moonologer. There you go. A 7th dimensional transference, an EFT, crystal chakra, and aura healing practitioner, and she combines the modalities to create bespoke healings. And yeah, she's here to talk to us about her interest in dragons. So I hand you over, Nicola. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. Yes, so my name is Nicola. I'm a soul wisdom activator, and really what I do with all of those different modalities, as I say, yeah, just kind of bespoke, and I activate your soul's blueprint with the guidance of my dragons. And this is through all the teachings and meditations, light language, and of course channeled dragon messages. That's one of the main ways that they seem to come through. So today's I'll just be talking a little bit about my journey, and I'll be sharing a few different messages that the dragons have asked me to share as well as we go along. So yeah, I've been, well, I think like everyone else, just really bursting with excitement as well. It's just been, yeah, this whole build up to the summit. So I just want to say a huge thank you to Kevin for organising this, for listening to his dragons, and you know, for creating this summit. So my journey here was more or less the same, because my dragon clan asked me to channel for 30 days dragon messages of wisdom and inspiration, and to share them on my social media pages, which for me was quite a bit scary to put myself out there. I thought that people might think I'm a bit weird talking about dragons, but you know, when the dragons talk to you, they're quite direct, and when they ask you to do something, it can often feel, well, to me, like I've got a bit of a headache and these dragons are sitting on my head and I've just got to do it. So so I did, I shared, I had to trust, I had to surrender with no attachment at all to the outcome. And at the end of it, I was, yeah, really, I saw, that's when I saw this summit, and my dragon said, you've got to apply as a speaker. So I did, and that's how I'm here. But so the dragons really, if you're drawn to dragons, which clearly everyone that's here probably is, or at least curious about dragons, it is a mystical path. It's a mystic's path, I mean, or a priest or priestess path. It's the alchemist path. And that's because you're creating your life from the magical threads of remembrance and heart alignment. And this is directed all from your dragon within. It's sort of slowly awakening. And it's a path to self-empowerment so that you're in flow, but it's also onward from that. It's a path to enlightenment, to inner peace, and to just simply being. And that's when you're part of the flow. But first, before we even get to that point, you're sort of the point of self-empowerment. It's really likened to like a hero's journey. So if you're familiar with Carl Jung's work, then the hero's journey is where you overcome all of these challenges to get to that place of empowerment. And so like it can be challenges such as fear, judgment, worries, self-doubt for the path that you're choosing. And this can be often thought of as slaying the dragon, or slaying your ego, perhaps. But actually, the dragons have taught me that it's not really about slaying the dragon. It's about integrating your dragon through acceptance of these challenges, and because often these challenges are our faults or our temptations or the parts of ourselves that we don't like about ourselves, or they're our shadow self, and they cannot be separated from us. So this is kind of yin and yang energy, and this is where we balance both the feminine and the masculine, because that by balancing those energy, this helps our energy to bring ourselves and our lives back into a place of wholeness. And the dragons really asked me, this is what they said about dragon slaying. So they asked me to share this. So it says, your dragon is not to be slayed, but instead befriended and integrated within. Your dragon is your power. So often people will say that they have to be pure of heart to work with dragons. And the dragons tell me that's simply not true. It's more about that this journey is being on a heart-led journey. And it's you're leading from your heart. And the dragons liken this almost to the breath. It's when they say you come back to your breath and you come back to your heart space, or your heart chakra. Some people say rose gates. My dragons have asked me to call the chakras powerhouses. And this is because this is like the vortex of energy. It's where all of the energy comes in and through there. And often we can give energy leaks by, we can leak our energy by giving our energy away to others. Often when we've got our yes head on and we say yes to things when we really want to say no, and we leak all of this energy. So the dragons have asked for it to be powerhouses, because what they're essentially doing is plugging these leaks, or helping you to plug these leaks by overcoming those challenges. And then you draw in that energy back to yourself. And that's where you become from that place of self-empowerment, which is the journey. So they tell me that when you're in this heart space, it's almost like nothing else matters, or the monkey mind, the thoughts, all those worries and things that go on, all of that dissipates. And you're here in the center of your soul. That's how they say it is. It's like this, from this place, you can become this curious, expansive observer. And you just, you see your life for what it is. No judgment, no guilt, no shame, no attachments, no overwhelm. It just is. And they say here with the heart space, they say, when you have an open heart, your divine essence is shared with the world. You become expansiveness itself, unity and oneness with all. So the dragons really have just asked me to take you all into your heart space so you can feel it for yourself. So if you want to, you can close your eyes. You can also place your hands here on your heart, as that helps you sometimes connect in with it. So I'm just going to close my eyes and just really bring yourself to the breath, because the breath is where all of that chi energy comes through. It travels along the breath, through the blood, through the meridian lines. And just imagine yourself breathing into that heart space. And as you breathe out, just see this dusty cloud of all of that monkey mind and chatter and thoughts and worries going from your body. And as you come into your heart space, just see this expanding. And we're seeing it expanding outwards as wide as your arms and filling up the room that you're in. And if you have got your arms outspread, you can just imagine that we're all connecting to one another. And this is also for those who are on the recording as well. So it's just showing that we're in this huge circle, that the dragons have brought us together, and they're here protecting us. I can also see them, dancing at the moment. They're just everywhere. So many dragons here. Yeah, mahaki ishka, mahak tuya mahoko, oishka, mahish, mahakato, yeah, yeshmaka. It's just bubble up. So just feeling into the energy that we're all here, we're all connected, all of us dragon enthusiasts, the dragon tribe being brought together, and feeling, just being in that heart energy. This is the center of your soul, and this is where you just become the observer, and just taking all the codes, all the information that you want to from this summit that resonates with you. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And it's just so funny seeing all these dragons. They're just so happy. And that really resonates with what the next message that they'd asked me to share with you, which they said, we are so happy you have followed the signs and listened to your hearts to be here at this convergence of dragon seers. There is important work to come, and everyone here is a big part of this mission. If more people like you listen to their heart, then the world will be an even more beautiful place to live, as all frequencies will be raised to the level of love. Keep up the good work. So that was, yeah, another little message. So my journeys with the dragons really started around about 4 years ago. I guess I've always been drawn to dragons as a child. I loved King Arthur, the myths and legends of him. I used to play on my recorder the Puff the Magic Dragon. I love that song too. So they've always been around me, but it wasn't until 4 years ago that really during my shamanic apprentice, they started coming in for me. And that started in my dreams. And when I was younger, I used to have these prophetic dreams, and they used to scare me quite a lot because they would basically come true, and they'd usually be disasters. So I guess I kind of shut that down a little bit. But as I was doing the shamanic journeying, I guess when you're in the shamanic realms, it's a little bit like being in the dream world. That's the kind of trance state that you go into. So during this time, this is when these dragons started, and my dreams were getting more prophetic again. And so my very first dragon that came in for me was this little baby dragon. He had feathers on him. He was brown and yellow, and he just hatched from this egg. And when I looked down at him, he leapt into my arms, and I was holding him, and I just felt this like immense love. Which is often what you do when you work with dragons, because you're working from the heart, and that's what you feel. It is the frequency of love. So this is what I was feeling. But then I remember looking down and seeing these feathers and thinking, oh, that's interesting. There's no scales. It's got feathers. Maybe dragons aren't, so serpenty. Maybe they are, birds. Or so that was sort of an interesting observation. And then I looked again, and I saw all of these little, like little worms, little mites, and really horrible things all over it, like you do sometimes with animals, or guess dragons, they have things. And I looked at it, and I just dropped it in disgust. And of course I woke up, and then I felt really bad because of the way I treated the dragon. But I realized that this was my very first initiation to actually look at myself, because dragons are often a reflection, or show you a reflection of yourself. And this dragon was my personal dragon, and he was showing me to not look at myself so much in disgust, particularly around my body, after having 3 children, 3 cesareans, and going through the menopause. So instead, the dragon was showing me this and asking me to celebrate the fact that, I'd given birth to 3 beautiful humans. They are grown-ups now, most of them, and for the fact that now I could embody my wisdom and experience and share that with you, because I've gone into that full crone energy, I guess. So and also the dragons that come in for you, they're often when you're personal or your guardian dragons, they often match your astrological sign. So this dragon was a mud dragon, so an earth sign, and I too am an earth sign. I'm a Capricorn. So this dragon was kind of matching my energy there as well. And then as I've sort of ventured on this journey and gone through more kind of initiations, I've found that seeking more questions, asking really big questions like, who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? All of those things. I have evolved, expanded my perception of the world, and my personal dragon itself has also evolved with me. And it's helped me, first of all, to like cleanse different chakras. That's to sort of get in that place of being able to widen my perspective as well, and just help me to follow my heart, my inner truth, and really amplify my intuition as well. But this dragon now has also evolved and grown, and he shows himself to me in different colors. So sometimes he's this beautiful ruby red, and that's when he's showing me that he's to remind me to ground and to be present. And then sometimes he's this beautiful midnight blue, and that's when he has these huge wings, because now he's grown his wings, he's earned his scales from his wounds and his challenges that he's gone through, and he has these huge wings that he just wraps himself around me, and I feel very protected, very safe to sort of share. And with my mission, I can sort of feel him here with me today, actually. And he also has the energy of that Archangel Michael that comes through as well, which is that other kind of protective energy. So this dragon also can show itself as a midnight black, and that's when it's reminding me of like the black ray. It's showing me the potential of all creativity, and that I have the potential to be creative. Because this is kind of what Dragon Journey and the Dragon Path is about. It's you being as creative as you want to, and they will encourage you to do that and to share your gifts, your talents, without that fear and without that judgment. So yes, so the dragons really help you. They support that transformation, and they always say to me that they are direct without the drama. They're not like us humans, they don't do drama, they just kind of get on with it. So that's how the dragons speak with me. And the other message that they brought forward for me to share, which is about transformation and how they support it, they say transformation doesn't need to be destructive, like a tower collapsing and the ground being ripped from underneath you. Dragon energy supports the foundations that you have already put in place and builds upon this, which I think is another really lovely message. So my seeking really continued down this rabbit hole, which I love doing. I love going all over the place and where dragons send me. And the next point was the energies of Mary Magdalene. And Mary Magdalene is a high priestess. She's a seer. She's a spiritual teacher. And she was there to support me on my next step in this journey to becoming a role as a teacher. And the dragons have shown me that they connect through the personal dragons each ascended masters has to help them live in their truth. And then they connect to our inner dragon through if this ascended master or guide is there to help us on our journey. So that's why different guides might come through for you as well. And that's the dragons kind of supporting that initiation as well, and sharing dragon to dragon, I guess, is what they're doing. And I used to be a teacher. I used to work a lecturer in a college, and I used to teach children as well. So it makes sense that my next role would be to be a teacher, having gone down this spiritual journey. Hence why I kind of like just, I'm ever the student as well, and I just love learning everything I can. And then it's got to the point where it's time to share this information as well with people. So some water. So I was attuned to being a Reiki master and teacher. And this is when I was given this dragon symbol to meditate on for 21 days. And this, through the meditations, this small red dragon appeared, and he was all curled up in my root chakra or root powerhouse. And often people will say a little red dragon is often the first that comes through to them as well. And they are here to sort of activate that Kundalini or Chakra, or the whole chakra system or powerhouse system or rose gate system, whichever one you want to use. And this dragon came forward with me with a message, which I will share with you now. So he said he was here to ignite the fire within me, that he was the guardian of my treasure, and that the jewel he was guarding was my inner wisdom, and now it was time to cleanse and activate my root powerhouse, to awaken my gifts and share my light with those who were seeking, to help them engage with their own initiation, to open their unique gifts, talents, so that they could step fully into their own self-empowerment, aligned and heartfelt inner truth. So those who I work with, I call them soul wisdom seekers, because often that's what you're seeking. You're seeking that remembrance and alignment back to your soul. So really, it was a while before more dragons came through to me after the red dragon. That's the only one that I had for a while, and of course my guardian dragon. And that was because I still had to get through a lot more of my own initiations and challenges, particularly around channeling. I had a lot of fears around what I was connecting with, who I'm talking to, and then when I was talking with dragons, I mean, I talk with other entities and things, but particularly dragons, to then start telling people that you talk to dragons, it was a big fear to get over. But I always knew that there would be more. I felt there would be more activations to come through that I would be asked to share with people. And this is something that's really taken 2 years to create, because I've had to travel all over the place to actually get the different codes and information through. So this is really birthed as the intuitive dragon medicine, so that other people can receive these same codes and activate their powerhouses and clear and cleanse their powerhouses as well, so that they can be a clearer open channel to for their gifts and talents to come through and to access their intuition and their psychic abilities. So as I was connecting more fully to my psychic centers, and the dreams were getting even more bigger, I began dreaming about places. And this is when the dragons will often talk to you through the ley lines, or the dream lines, or the song lines, they're called in different places. And it's where the energy energy grid that's going around the world, in certain places, that energy vortex is really strong. And so I was asked to go to some of these different places, sometimes around the solstice, sometimes the equinoxes, because that seems to be when dragon energy gets bigger as well. So my first sort of dream that I had was of the Huffington horse, which actually some historians now say might even be a dragon. And I think it may have been around the area where there was a big battle between, it might have been the Welsh dragon and the English dragon, I'm not sure, on that hill. And there's also Silbury Hill was the next one that came in, and that's just across the way from the burial chambers in Avebury. So I decided I had to go to Avebury, so off I went. That's where I purchased my first little dragon head, and that's made of the same sarsen that both Avebury and Stonehenge are made of. And when I got there, I did some meditations, not too much happened, but I just felt the energy. And when I got home, that was when my whole dragon clan came in, just like one after the other. So the very first, obviously the first dragon was the red dragon, but the next one that came through for the sacral was this beautiful orange dragon. And then I could see this golden lion-headed dragon, which I think is probably the one who's a little bit in charge of what's going on. And that was for the solar plexus, to activate that sort of full empowerment there. And then I had this, it was so like a really light etheric turquoise blue that came through for the throat, to activate the throat. And then for the third eye, there was this 3-headed shimmering like purple dragon, which is there to really help you with your vision and decide which direction you're going in. But interestingly, they always say that it doesn't matter which path you take, it always leads to the same place, because you're always trying to find your way back to the soul. So you can take the long road or the short road, it doesn't matter. You'll find it one day, maybe not this lifetime, maybe another lifetime. And then the final one that came through was this, it was like a silver moon wolf dragon for the crown. So all of these dragons work together, and they came through with different activations and journeys to take people on to help clear and cleanse those chakras. But it was a real while before the Heart Chakra dragon appeared to me. And this was because I had to go to even more places to kind of collect that data and that information. So the first place I had to go to was Glastonbury Tor and Shaftesbury, and both of these are actually the heart chakras of the earth. So and then the next place after Avebury was Stonehenge. So once I'd been to those 4 places, the next activation was showing itself. It hasn't come through yet, and I think it's because it might be a live transmission, but it was showing me that there's 4 chambers of the heart, and each of these places are portals, and as you go through each of these portals, you will activate and cleanse that part of all of those chambers of your heart. So that's quite exciting, but it's still to come. And the last part of that puzzle, because that's what it feels like, a big puzzle. You're on this journey and you're going around collecting little snippets of information down a rabbit hole. But in the end, you always just have to listen to your dragons and what they say, because usually they're pretty much right. But the last piece of this puzzle was this week when I was in Cornwall, and I was in Merlin's cave, and they're in Tintagel, and this last the heart dragon actually fully showed herself to me, and that was Q. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but Q Yin. She was the pink dragon of Q Yin, who is the goddess of compassion. So she showed herself to me, and she showed that the last portal would be Tintagel through Merlin's cave, and that would be to activate the higher heart. So that sort of was the sort of final link in it, which I was really happy to have received. And then 2 weeks ago, I was in the Isle of Man, and this is another really Celtic place where the little people live. So there's a lot of fae, a lot of elemental energy there. And while I was meditating there, I was asked to find the dragon on the island. And I'd been before quite some time ago, but I didn't know there was a dragon there. But as I looked it up, there, lo and behold, there was this huge dragon rock, and there he was drinking water. So he's called the drinking dragon. And then, so once I found the dragon, there was this stone circle above it overlooking the dragon rock, and it's not a full circle. I think it's a burial chamber, but with 12 stones in it that looks like it. And I was asked to go and meditate there, which I did. Had to climb up this great big hill, beautiful views, and then at the top I settled down to meditate, and I like to give a gift first to in exchange for information. So I gave Reiki healing to the land, and I was asked to give the healing to these rocks because they were a little bit grumpy and a little bit fed up that they'd been walked all over. So I sent the healing to them, and in exchange I was shown into this beautiful white quartz crystal cave. And there's white quartz crystal all over the Isle of Man. So it was interesting that was the cave that I was shown. And within that was this violet, almost like a violet ray, I guess, but it was almost watery, like a pool of water. And they asked me to step in it, bathe in it, because it was very healing. And they said that in the past, this was the technology in the times of Lemuria and Atlantis, that they would have used this type of healing. And you also could have drunk it as well to help with that healing. But unfortunately, that technology is no longer around, although they want to try and create it again. But for now, the dragons are, they're the keepers of these guardians and keepers of the crystals. And they keep this sort of technology safe to make sure that it isn't misused like it was in the times of Atlantis. So, and then I was just told that more information would come when I got home. So, which I did, because when I got home, I found this old bit of paperwork that I'd been doodling on. And I noticed that there were doodles like everywhere, all over. I'm always journaling, writing messages as they come through. So any bit of scrap of paper gets written on, and I've just got piles of it. And there I saw this, which I'm going to try and show you. And try to explain it a little bit. So this is basically the code that came through. It's like a light code, and this is coming in from the Cygnus constellation. So there's so much going on here. It would take a long time to explain all of what is happening, but it is an attunement that you can be attuned to in the intuitive dragon medicine, and it's an alignment to all of those chakras, and it is pointing downwards here to show that you're anchoring into your Earth Star chakra. And you're also anchoring upwards into your soul star chakra as well. So it is anchoring you down to the crystalline structure, really grounding you to the belly of Gaia and to receive all the information that she has. But also at the top end here, when you're linking into your soul star, you are opening your Akashic records, and you are also opening up your the next step to the galactic stellar gateway, to get to receive information from the galactic as well. So when I was asked to paint this through, I've actually drawn it 3 times and then had to, mash it together. I'm not really an artist, so it's just really is how it's channeled and how I was asked to draw it. There were 3 of these because it's like mind, body, spirit. 3, the power of 3. We've got 3 because it's maiden, mother, crone energy, and the dark bit at the back could be the wild woman. It is also the black ray and the birth of all creativity. We have these 4 circles here, and this is really representing the elements, the directions and the seasons. And it's also, we've got 4, which is stability. The 4, there are also circles, which is like the spiral of life, and reminding you that, life is a spiral, and we often come back around like an onion, peeling these layers, and we think we've got through one thing and then we've got to do it all again. But this is essentially what that's reminding us of. This part of it here is a diamond, and that's because it's working with the diamond light ray as well, which is all about rebirth. It's the rainbow light. And then trying to remember now, so we've got this could look, it's probably backwards now, but it's actually like a number 2, and that is to remind us to balance our feminine and our masculine energies. It is also a Z for Zeus, and he I'm not really too familiar with that mythology story, but I think he ended up in the constellation of the Cygnus constellation where the swan was. I asked for confirmation that this was coming from the Cygnus constellation, and the next day my son gave me this beautiful swan feather just to confirm that it was. I think another part of it here, we've got here these are like chains, and it's anchoring you down and reminding you of all those things that weigh you down, ancestral patterns, beliefs that we have, all those limits and things that we have, and they're pulling you downwards sometimes. So it's to remind you to let go and transmute to the earth below as well. Yeah, it also links to the Draco constellation as well, which is this part down here. But as I say, to go into it, it's just, but basically that's what the whole kind of course creation is about. It's bringing everything into alignment. And also with this Cygnus constellation, what I did find, which I've got to share with you, because that really did, just make me go, wow, and brings in that magic, because I just think this whole journey is always just so magical. When I looked into the Cygnus constellation, there had been this, I think he's an astrophotographer. So he had been pointing his camera into the dark spot of the Cygnus constellation. And there, over 10 years, he'd been snapping away these pictures. And this was the result. And I don't know if this will show up very well at all. I'll try and put it in front. I don't know if you can see the whole picture there with the lighting, but it's actually called a hidden dragon. And it's made up of all that sort of gas, which was just amazing. Another sort of confirmation that it was coming from that Cygnus swan constellation, and I think it's coming from the Denbar, which is the brightest star within that sort of cosmic cross, and it also brings in sound, which is why I'm able to hear dragon talk. So yeah, really, really exciting. I'm not sure where that's going to lead, where that's going to go, but I feel like there's going to be some transmission in the future that's going to take you around all the whole cosmic, the cosmic cross, which will be very exciting. So as I say, that symbol really brings everything together. And, you know, this whole journey following dragons is about a journey of self-empowerment. It's about opening you up, working with the dragons in your own unique way. It's a journey of trust, and it's a journey of magic. And to finish off, I am just going to share the last message that I channeled when I was in Merlin's cave in Tintagel, and I was asked to share this with you. Now, dragons often talk, it sounds a bit like a riddle sometimes when they talk. It definitely isn't the way I would talk, and so sometimes it may sit with you differently another time when you hear it, or some parts of it might not make sense to you, and another time all of it does. But I shall read it anyway and share it with you. So, unconscious channeling without intention will not lead to anywhere. The art of conscious channeling, being prepared and creating an intention, will lead to a path of destruction and hoarding. Channeling from a place of trust and surrender, building on your imaginative, passionate creations and visions with aligned action, brings a heart-led, intuitive life of more abundance and love than you could imagine. This is dragon energy, and with courage, if followed as guided through signs and synchronicities, will anchor in your own personal dragon power. To access this energy and guidance, first call in, connect and bond with your guardian dragon through the crystalline structure in the belly of Gaia. Draw this energy up to your heart powerhouse through your breath. Let it settle a little, then ask for support and protection on your journey of unfolding. If you veer from your soul's path, be sure your dragon will gently nudge you back. And dragons definitely do, gently, sometimes forcefully, nudge you back on the path. So, thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. One question for me: was Merlin home in Tintagel?
Sorry,
Was Merlin home? Was he in his cave in Tintagel?
I don't think he was.
Oh, he wasn't. When I went there, he wasn't either. He's never home.
Too busy traveling around, I guess, wherever the dragons are sending him.
I think he is. I love that you're travelling around all these different places, picking up all these beautiful codes. I think a lot of people were sort of saying that they're feeling the same calling. One of the questions that went flying past was about dragon names. Maybe you could sort of answer this. People are saying, my dragon's given me their name. And some people are saying, should I share the name? Is there a power in that? And I've heard lots of different answers. It'd be interesting. What do you think? Are you happy to share your dragon's name? And do you think that has any dangers to the dragon?
Yeah, I've heard different things about names. For me, my dragons haven't given me any names. I see them in colours. So I don't think they really worry too much about names. I do ask them, do you have a name? And they don't really answer me. They just say you don't need a name. So I describe them in their colours and what they look like. But I think other people do receive names, and some people will say, like you just said, that you don't share the names, but other people say we do share the names. So I think it's like anything, perhaps a personal preference, or ask your dragon if it's okay to share or not.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I mean, the one I've heard that I like the sound of is that dragons often have names that they're so multidimensional that actually if they give us the name, we wouldn't repeat it anyway, because it's visual and it's sound and it's I did ask once, and it was like an orchestra playing with all this light show. I was like, okay, I'll just call you that English name. And they're like, yeah, do that, it's much easier. And I think there maybe is some power, and maybe in the past people used those multi-dimensional names to lock dragons away. But I think personally I think it's safe if your dragon's called Fred or Bob or Melissa. that it's okay because that's the name they've given you, so you can easily communicate rather than giving this like rah, 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 you know, like language type thing that you probably your ear wouldn't understand. So that's fair enough.
Definitely.
There's a couple of questions here, but I'm not sure they're. I think they're ones we need to answer as a group afterwards. They're quite deep questions, and they're sort of running out of time on this. Have you seen the questions in the Q&A?
No, there's some that are saying that they've had similar journeys. I think, like you say, that the way that the dragons will send you around to places, and sometimes the information that comes through is the same. And I definitely, I think that's what's amazing about this summit and all coming together, is because you can feel so alone and you're not sure you're threading little pieces of information and you've got no one to share it with. And then when you all come together and you start sharing, it's like, oh yeah, I saw that. Oh yeah, I had that bit of information. And you've all got little threads of the same thing, although it might be in slightly different ways. So yeah, I just think it's amazing.
I think so too. There's this big jigsaw puzzle, isn't there? And we all get our own little piece of it. I think there's some more questions coming up. We should have a quick look. What does Mary Magdalene's dragon look like? Do you know?
Oh, she was very red.
Very red.
Yeah,
Oh,
I see her as a red dragon. Yeah, yeah.
Was she large?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How large, I suppose, would be the
Huge.
question. Huge.
Can't see her all.
Can't
see all of her, no.
Massive. Cool. Thank you very much. I'll just say what the answer to that one. There's another question. How do you deal with it sometimes being on a lonely path? Do you feel like you're on a lonely path with dragons?
I don't know. I definitely don't know. I did, yes. So I guess I went off the path because I didn't want to. I sort of shared a little bit with people, and I was getting some really funny things like, oh yeah, we understand everything you're talking about when you're talking about Reiki and, you know, even shamanic work. But as soon as you start talking about dragons, we don't know what you're talking about. And that kind of, yeah, knocked my confidence a little bit as to whether I was just going slightly crazy and a little bit too far into this, and what was I really channeling into. And it brought up again all of those fears that I had, and maybe it wasn't real, and maybe I was going completely off a tangent. So so I left it for a while. But then, of course, you know, dragons they're always there, and they help you pick it up from wherever you restart it. And as I say, they do nudge you back on the path quite heavily. So I was going really off the path, and they were like, no, now it's time, you know. And yeah, I felt like I had a bit of a butt hit, to be honest.
Beautiful. Oh, and there's one more. It says, I have a red dragon. I've been doing energy clearings to clear my chakras for the past few months. The message has been reappearing was about activating my Kundalini. Is there a specific location to go for activation?
Oh, I'm trying to think, where did mine start? Oh, mine really started with the Reiki. I think a lot of people start with Reiki attunements, particularly that little red dragon. I think, yeah, I mean, I haven't read into any books or anything. I just get my information direct. But I do remember afterwards sort of having a look at something Caroline Mitchell's put up, and she was talking about the same thing. She'll be on later, won't she, to speak, but I think she was talking about this red dragon, and that it they often come through as a Reiki attunement. And it probably is, I've forgotten his name now, but the Reiki master himself, Usui, sorry, I should mention, sorry, nerves.
Beautiful. Okay, I think that's all the questions that we can answer there. Thank you very much for your time. That was actually gorgeous, and there's obviously lots of beautiful comments from people there. I'll read through them. So thank you very much. What we'll do is we'll move on to the next one. I'm just going to press stop on the recording so that we're not too big.